Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. We're gonna start in 5 minutes. Could you please take your seats for the next 5 minutes? Thank you very much. Can I ask everyone to turn off their cell phone, including myself? And I gave mine given to Rob and crew. Just want to let you know, so I couldn't control myself to keep it on me. So. Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome. My name is Amir Dabirian. I'm the Vice President for Information Technology at Cal State Fullerton. I'm extremely humbled and honored to be MC of this celebration of Dr. Milton A. Gordon. Before we start, I would like to have a moment of silence for the tragedy that occurred this past Sunday in Las Vegas. Thank you. Thank you for coming today to celebrate this wonderful man that gave so much to Cal State Fullerton. I first want to recognize Dr. Gordon's wife for 35 years, Dr. Margaret Falwell Gordon. She's here with us. She's here with us with several of her family members who's seated in front row. Children Vincent, Patrick, and Michael and their families. Milt's sister, Dolores. Marge's sisters, Valerie and her family. Thank you. Thank you also to President of CSUF Stanislaus, Dr. Ellen John, for making a trip to the campus today. Dr. John. Thank you to Norma Morris, who's joining us today and who worked most closely with Dr. Gordon during his years on the campus. Thank you, Norma. I would like to also acknowledge several other special guests from the Chancellor's Office and Board of Trustees. Steve Esteban, CSU trustee. Garrett Ashley, Vice Chancellor for CSU. Andy Jones, Associate Vice Chancellor and Deputy General Counsel. Lawyer Redfern, Assistant Vice Chancellor for Chancellor's Office. I would also like to mention that we have representatives from the Office of the Congressman Lou Carrera, Rachel Rolinski. Office of Assembly Member Sharon Cork Silva, Amy Ramos. Also would like to thank Campus Vice President for being here today. and our ASI President, Layla Databoy. Thank you. Thanks for coming. I would like to share a few words about Dr. Gordon with you today. President Gordon was an extraordinary man who touched the lives of many. I'm one of those very, very lucky individuals that touched and helped me shape. I am who I am because of him. President Gordon loved our students and had a great vision for technology on this campus. His vision for technological innovation transformed the campus into the model 21st century learning environment. Not only was he the first CSU president that made technology a priority on our campus, he also generously gave his time and was deeply invested in moving our campus forward, even if that meant traveling to Sacramento to fight for additional state funds for our telecommunication infrastructure. He told the legislature that if you pay for the infrastructure, he would find the money to pay for the equipment for our faculty, staff, and students. He stood by his word, and we have not looked back. He was a trailblazer in his own right. Moving the campus forward with technology was important to President Gordon. He often stated, when I came to the campus in early 1990s, I could communicate using technology with someone in Washington, D.C., but I could not communicate with anyone on our campus, and did not make sense to him. I remember later on his career that he called me into his office with a very warm smile, and he told me, Amir, you are the only VP that will be on campus long after I leave. Ensure our technology advances for our students. President Gordon loved his wife very much. I could see a special glow in his eyes when Marge was in a room or by his side. Marge, from the bottom of my heart, let me thank you for sharing President Gordon with us and being by his side during the 22 years of presidency at Cal State Fullerton. I would like to finish by thanking my role model, my mentor, my friend, and my former CSU president, Dr. Gordon. He always been our heart and mind, and I always cherish his word of wisdom every day. Thank you. Now, I would like to welcome Dr. Mildred Garcia, my boss, our president.
Good afternoon y buenas tardes. On behalf of the faculty, staff, and more than 40,000 students of Cal State Fullerton, we welcome you to the celebration of life for President Milton Gordon, a man who spent 22 years propelling this university into the national spotlight for providing equitable access and pathways to higher education for all students, regardless where they came from. Of course, that entire time, his beloved wife, Dr. Marge Gordon, who used to be my dean at Cal State Dominguez Hills, so I know her for a long time now, herself an accomplished academic, was at his side, and we are all honored by her presence here today along with her family. In celebrating President Gordon's life, it's important to understand where he came from. Some of you may know the story, but before Milt, as he liked to be called, was born, his father made the 1,000-mile trek from the segregated south of Louisiana to Chicago in the north on foot, knowing that with every courageous step, his future children might have a better chance at a college degree. What he didn't know was that his journey would not only transform his own family's future, but also the lives and family legacies of the hundreds of thousands of students who would one day be led and inspired by his own son, Milt Gordon. A young Milt would not fully comprehend his father's exodus from the South until he himself made the return voyage to Louisiana to attend college at Xavier University some 2 decades later. Of course, he had experienced racial discrimination growing up in 1930s Illinois. But upon his arrival in Louisiana, he suddenly faced the same shocking segregation and racism that had compelled his father to walk 1,000 miles to escape it. He was forced to sit in the back of buses and in segregated train cars, motivating him, like his father before him, to seek a way to escape these injustices. Only instead of a 1,000-mile journey by foot, Gorton chose a lifelong journey grounded in one true solution to violence. And boy, do we need that today. He went ahead and made education his center. He knew that with education we would avoid violence. Some people wanted to confront physically, he said to the Orange County Register in 1997. He further said, each person had a different set of tools. For me, it was my mind. His mind was indeed an effective tool, and he wielded its power first in the classroom and then as an administrator. In his first academic post at Loyola University of Chicago, he created a program for underrepresented students long before such practices would become part of the national conversation. Imagine, he was an African-American man who majored in mathematics, really ahead of his times. When he began searching for a director for a program for underrepresented students, the students asked that he take the helm, a request he ultimately accepted and said, I was only going to stay for a year, he told the Daily Titan of the experience, but I ended up staying 7. He stayed for the same reason he remained Cal State Fullerton's president for more than 2 decades, to support all students, particularly first-generation and low-income students, achieve their academic goals and life's dreams. That passion would be the running theme of his career, culminating in many initiatives that remain the foundation upon which we stand today. For example, after noting that less than 3% of foster youth go to college, President Gorton created the Guardian Scholars, I believe one of the first programs in the nation aimed at supporting foster youth achieve a college degree, a program that in 2017 boasts rates of retention, persistence, and graduation rates of over 97%. Only the 4th African-American president in the largest system of higher education in the country, President Gorton was not only a product of equitable access to our higher education, but also a champion for his transformative power. In his final convocation in 2011, he told the campus community, and I quote, I am grateful that I am able to call higher education my life's work, unquote. He also mentored other aspiring presidents, including me. He counseled me along with others on the CSU. I remember when I first arrived at the CSU now 10 years ago, Dr. Gorton and Dr. Rosser took me under their wing, took me to dinner, and told me the good, the bad, and the ugly about the CSU. And I remember him lovingly giving me advice, scolding me when he thought he should, and me accepting it from people that you look up to your entire life. He was a mentor, he was a colleague, he was my friend. As we in the Titan family process our grief and celebrate his memory, I know that we too are grateful that he made higher education, his students, and this university his life's work. In his memory and in his honor of his family legacy, we at Cal State Fullerton will continue the journey of ensuring our sons and daughters have equitable, high-quality access to higher education, as he demonstrated and showed us, one courageous step at a time. We thank Dr. Gorton for all he's given us. Thank you.
Thank you, President Garcia. And now our next speaker is Dr. Silas Abrego. He's a member of the CSU Board of Trustees and is an emeritus vice president for student affairs and worked alongside of Dr. Gorton for many years. Dr. Abrego.
Thank you, Amir. When I first met Dr. Gordon, he had only been on campus a few weeks. At the time, I was the Director of Student Academic Services and University Outreach, and my office was housed in the basement of the library. Nobody visits the library, the basement of the library. But one day, certainly and unannounced, Dr. Gordon was standing on the doorway. I immediately said, "Welcome," and instantly realized how stupid that was, because knowing that he's president, he's welcome anywhere on campus. Dr. Gordon was not one to engage in long conversations and got to the point rather quickly. He asked, "Why don't we have any TRIO programs on campus?" And not waiting for a reply, he said, "I want you to go after the TRIO programs and get them on campus." Thus, the beginning of a 22-year working relationship. Milt was, of course, my president, but he also became a friend, my mentor, and in so many ways, my teacher and moral compass. That is why I'm honored to be here today, to remember and memorialize this exceptional man. Dr. Gordon's childhood was spent in Chicago, Illinois, where his drive and ambition likely took root. As Dr. Garcia noted, he was of that generation of Americans judged and marginalized by the color of their skin, regulated and required to sit in the back of the bus and drink from the water fountain labeled colored. Milt used to tell me the story about his mother packing him a lunch for his trip on a segregated train back and forth to college in Louisiana. People like him couldn't purchase food in the train, thus the necessity for him to bring his own. During that time, he traveled a lonely and difficult road to earn a formal education. These experiences instilled in him a deep commitment to ensure that all persons, regardless of race, ethnicity, circumstance, status, or background, have access to higher education. He believed in the power of an educated mind. What made Dr. Gordon special was that he was a unifying force, both on campus and in the community. Indeed, he was so well respected in the community that he earned the Tree of Life Award from the Jewish National Fund, the Humanitarian of Year Award from the North Orange County YMCA, and Manager of the Year Award from the Society for the Advancement of Management. His work in the Latino community earned him the Estrella Award from the Orange County Hispanic Chamber, the Cesar Chavez Community Award from the Hispanic Bar Association, the Alfredo de los Santos Distinguished Leadership in Education Award from the American Association of Hispanics in Higher Education. The summation of these recognitions by such a diverse group of community groups speaks volumes to who he was as a person, as an educator, indeed as my president. When Milt became a board member of HACU in 2006, it didn't take long for the board to recognize his leadership. And in 2008 was offered the leadership of the organization. Dr. Gordon struggled with this decision to accept the invitation to serve as chair. You see, HACU at that time was comprised of 425 colleges and universities, and almost 2/3 of all Latino students attending higher education are enrolled in one of these colleges. So he thought it more appropriate that a Latino head the organization than an African American. It took some convincing, perhaps some hard nudging, as I recall, but he finally accepted and served as chair of HACU until 2010. As chair of HACU, he wholeheartedly supported the 2010 DREAM Act as a way to remove barriers to higher education for thousands who have grown up in this country and have the desire and ability to make vital contributions to our society. His willingness to take a public stand on behalf of undocumented students at that time was courageous and showed his commitment to right an injustice in our country. Later this month, at HACU's National Conference in San Diego, Milt will be inducted posthumously into HACU's Hall of Champions. I'd like to close with an anecdote that summarizes Dr. Gordon's dedication to Cal State Fullerton. During a trip to Cuba, Milt and I were meeting the Cuban equivalent of the president of the NCAA. Out of nowhere, Milt asked that Fullerton be invited to play against the Cuban national baseball team. Shocked me. Thought we were going to have an international incident. The Cuban leader said he would love to have the Titans come play baseball against a superlative national team. Dr. Gordon tells the men, "You may have a great team, but I have the National Collegiate Championship team that can defeat your superlative team." The Cuban leader stated with great certainty, "I don't care if they are national champions. My team will beat your Titans. I guarantee it." President Gordon was impressed, but with his surety of his own asked, "How can you be so certain?" To which the man replied, "Don't forget, I pay the umpires." This is the man I chose to follow. A highly visible and accessible president, a leader who also listened, a leader who was interested in interacting with his students, whether one-on-one, in group settings, or during roaring protests and demonstrations. Milt's ability to approach the most difficult issues and situations with calm deliberation and a positive and optimistic attitude set him apart. You are indeed blessed in your life if you have found someone who loves you as much as you love them. If you ever got to see Milt and Marge together, then you know what I mean. There was no mistaking the love that passed between the two of them. Their demeanor was convincing, exemplified mostly by the way he held her hand. Whenever they were together, they were holding hands. There was a dignity when they walked together, and you knew watching them that what you were seeing was authentic, the real deal. Marge, I believe that kind of love continues to exist through time and circumstance. And although Milt is not here physically, you will never walk alone, because some part of him will always be holding your hand. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said that the measure of a man was found where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands in times of challenges and controversy. The measure of Dr. Milt Gordon was that he did what he did without thought of what he would get or what awards he would receive. He simply served to ensure that all students received the best education possible. Dr. Gordon was a man of towering achievements and modest demeanor, one worthy of our praise. Thank you, and thank you, Milt.
Thank you, Cy. Next, we hear from Dr. Herb Carter, who was a peer of Dr. Gordon for many years as a past acting president of CSU Dominguez Hills, as a past chairman of the Board of Trustees. Dr. Carter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. You saw it took me a little time to get up those steps. I'm not as flexible as I used to be. When Stephanie called me and told me that there had been a suggestion that I might come over and say a few words in commemorating the life of Milton, I was delighted to say yes, and did so right away. A few days later, she called me and she said, "Well, we're glad to have you, but we've said to the presenters that they should make their presentation in 3 to 5 minutes." And I said, "Stephanie, I come from a long line of Baptist ministers. it usually takes about 3 to 5 minutes to clear our throat. But in keeping with my instructions, I decided that I wouldn't wing it. I would write something down, and maybe I could do it in 3.5 minutes. My relationship with Milt covered 3 periods of my life. One, when I was the executive vice chancellor of the state university system. A second, when I was an interim president at Cal State Dominguez Hills. And the third, when I was a member and chairman of the Board of Trustees of the state university system. While each of these 3 roles gave me an opportunity to work with Milt, none of them gave me a complete view of the man. It was not until late in his life that I really came to understand just who he was. For some time, I had noticed that Milt almost never used the pronoun I when talking about himself or his views on most topics that we discussed. Always, he started his comments with we. We. In a conversation preceding my appearance on one of his campus TV shows, I pointed out to Milt that he had a I-we thing. And he just smiled and said, "It's not that, it's the Fullerton way. That's the way we do things." As our conversation continued, Milt told me that at Fullerton, we treasure our performing arts as much as we treasure our championship baseball team. He also said that we support diversity in our student body, our staff, our faculty, and our administrators, not because it is a system requirement, but rather because it's the right thing to do. We include the business and political leadership in our region, in the life of our university, because they are part of the whole. They are part of a caring community. And at last, I got it. I got what was bothering me all those years. Milt embraced we over I because that was the way he lived his life. That was his belief system. That was his relationship with other people. At another level, I learned that the we way of life included a long and loving relationship with his helpmate, Marge. I discovered that she had also a bad case of the we. During the period when I was the interim president of the CSU Dominguez Hills campus, Marge was Dean of Extended Education. And during our conversation, she always took care to have me understand that we were making decisions about a critical university program. And all the while, I thought I was making the decisions. And so, after all of my years working with and observing Milt, I finally came to understand why he was a we person. The key to my understanding was found in a quote from an ancient Chinese philosopher who, in writing about leadership, wrote these words: "A leader is best when people hardly know that he exists. Not so good when people obey and acclaim him. Worse when they despise him. Fail to honor people and they will fail to honor you. But of a good leader who talks little, when his work is done, his aim fulfilled, the people will say, we did this ourselves. My friend Milt Garden was such a good leader. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Carter. Please welcome alumna Erin McNally. We will perform the original song written by faculty member Bill Conniff. This has been performed once before at Dr. Gordon Retirement Tribute Gala.
Hello, everyone. I am so incredibly honored to be able to be here today to sing for someone who changed so many of our lives, but certainly gave me so many amazing memories and opportunities. I know I spoke a little bit about it if you were at Concert Under the Stars, but one of the things I loved about Dr. Gordon was the fact that when he would get up and speak, he was always so level-headed, right? And he was so knowledgeable and calm, and he would tell you all the things you needed to know. And then I would see him after Concert Under the Stars or after an event, and he would always greet me with, "Erin!" And he would be so excited. I was like, oh, he's so much fun. And what I had seen, he was so serious on stage and yet so much fun in person, and just filled me with so much energy and love and appreciation that it always made me so proud, not only to be a Titan, but he made me proud of myself always by the way that he reacted to the work that I would do, which always meant a lot. But my favorite memory of him, believe it or not, was when I was honored enough to be the singer for his retirement gala in 2011. And I was asked to do the song, one of the songs you'll hear today, which is the original song that was written by Bill Cunliffe for him. But when I talked to Stephanie Light about what I was going to do, and she said, "Erin, you're going to sing his favorite song in the world." And I said, "Awesome, what rockin' song is that song going to be?" And she said, "It's The Rose by Bette Midler." And I remembered, that's really cool. I would have never thought that about him. Awesome. And so I get there for the evening, and I sing my songs, and afterwards he comes up to me, and I was expecting this, "Erin!" again. And he walked up to me and he just stood there. And I saw him start to get teary-eyed. And he just enveloped me and he whispered, "Thank you." And I remembered, I wasn't really emotional until that moment. It hadn't quite hit me that he was retiring. And it really didn't hit me just how special he was until that moment. And almost like seeing so much in my head, it really hit me how much he loves this school. And how much he cared deeply about all of us individuals, whether we were the student that was singing on the stage, or the alumnus that was coming back to speak to people, or the faculty or administration, that he just cared so deeply from the bottom of his heart, so much that he couldn't even speak, which was kind of beautiful. So, of course, originally the thought was to sing The Rose today, but I could never get through that without crying. There was no way. So I invite you all on your own time at some point in the near future to find the song and listen to it once in his honor, and listen to those beautiful lyrics, and find in it one of the things that he loved about it. So for today, I get to sing to you the song that was written as a celebration of who he was as our president, and also as an incredible person. With a little bit of changes for today, I'm very pleased to sing the song. When Fullerton was just a town, a stop along the way, a college here was founded, and we celebrate today. A young man who was far away and building up a resume. He'd never dreamed he'd come this way to change so many lives. From Illinois to California, success was his routine. Loyola to Sonoma State and everywhere between. The hard work and the accolades, the crowd graduation day parades, the miracles that Milton made are matchless, you'll agree. We love the man who said you can, you'll achieve. And Milton Gordon was his name. He made it very clear that nothing is impossible. He helped build this university into our pride and glory. He opened doors, and what is more, he decreed. Our heart is our diversity. He embraced community, and tens of thousands told him that you inspire me. The paradigms with the times, you'll agree, but never his integrity. So raise your glasses high to this extraordinary man, Milton Gordon, so much more than Dr. Gordon to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Please give another round of applause for Aaron. Our last speaker today is Honorable Dick Ackerman, retired California State Senator. He is a longtime supporter and friend of the university. Honorable Ackerman.
Everybody seen this picture? Do you know what he's saying? Does this thing meet OSHA standards? Obviously not. I met Milt and Marge actually before he became president here. I was on the city council in Fullerton and had the opportunity to interview the final 4 candidates. And they didn't know that Milt and I actually had a few things in common, which I'll get to, but that had nothing to do with the decision. We made the right choice at that time. And I'm happy to say that I've known both Milt and Marge for the entire tenure, and including now, and it's been one of the most enjoyable relationships that Linda and I have had. First of all, about Milt, we had a lot of things in common. I was a math major. He was a math major. He got a PhD in math. I was in a PhD program, and I couldn't understand a single class, so I changed and went to law school. I liked basketball. He liked basketball. He got a scholarship to Xavier. I couldn't make my dorm team. While Milt, in his early years, he really took the town-gown relationship that Cal State Fullerton had with the city of Fullerton and put it really to new heights. During his tenure, we built a hotel on campus. We built a baseball stadium so the baseball players could win a few national championships. We built a softball stadium so the softball team could win a few national championships. We built some tennis courts, and I don't know how they did. In exchange for the city getting use, there was always a big demand for adult sports. So anytime the Cal State Fullerton wasn't using those fields, the city was able to use theirs for adult sports. It was a great, great relationship which lasted for a long, long time. But Milt really took the town-gown relationship and really made it meaningful for Fullerton. There's always been a good relationship between the university and the city, but as you know, sometimes that's not always good in other areas of the country and the state. But I'm happy to say in Fullerton it has always been good. And when Milt was here, he really took it to new heights. He was there at all the chamber events, all the charitable events, all the donors that he dealt with in the city. And also he got a lot of those. He's a very good salesman. He got a lot of the people involved in the city of Fullerton involved in the university, so they would donate to the university, which is very sharp. Millie's doing the same thing. But he was very, very good in community engagement, and he was a very, very heartfelt person. A couple of stories, I was trying to think of stories that I could tell, because Marge and his family are here. He was probably the #1 lobbyist for the school. Even though we have a good CSU department with Garrett here and the folks, they do a very good job of lobbying. My first day in the legislature, when I had just been elected, I got elected toward the end of the session. I had no office, I had no phone, and I was just sort of roaming around the halls, and they put me at a desk, and the phone rang, and it was just a random desk, and the phone rang, and it was Milt. My first thing is, how in the hell did you find me? And he said, I said, I have ways. So he called, and it was during the budget time, so he called up and he said, Dick, I need you to work on this budget item. It's important for Fullerton, blah, blah, blah. Can you do it? And I said, yeah. I said, if you can find me here, the least I can do is try and do something for the university. But he was very good to deal with. He had a lot of practical solutions. One time we were talking, and he said the state has varying purchasing powers for what state institutions have to do. And he said, if you can allow me to buy my stuff direct from Home Depot, I can save about $1 million a year. So I said, well, we'll work on that. I don't know if it ever happened, but he had a lot of practical things. He was a very compelling person. He was a very funny person. And I have to tell one more story on me, because he is a PhD and I wasn't. Every year, the university and the president had a holiday party at the president's house. And it was usually, some night it was one night, some night it was 2 nights. And one time I went over to their house, and it was sort of dark. It was sort of funny. No cars around and no lights. And I said, So my wife is starting to get on me. Is this the right night? Yeah, it's the right night. So I go up the door, knock on the door. Milt comes to the door, and I said, this isn't the right night, is it? And he said, no. But he said, well, you want to come in and have some wine? And I said, no, I don't want to interrupt you. So it was the wrong night. So then on the way home, Linda reminded me that's why he has a PhD in mathematics and I don't. That was a true story. Anyway, Milt's done a tremendous job for the university, a tremendous job for Fullerton, and a tremendous job for Orange County and the entire state. To have someone go from starting power forward at Xavier to running in the 2nd or 3rd, depending on the time of day, largest university in the state of California is a true accomplishment. And we'll all remember Milt and Marge and we. Thank you.
Thank you, Dick. Let's give another round of applause for all of our speakers. Thank you. On behalf of the family, I would like to thank each and every one of you who came here today to pay tribute to Dr. Gordon. This was truly a celebration of his life. At the memorabilia table on your right, my left, there are memories book. Feel free to leave personal messages or special memories that his family will enjoy. Also, at those tables, there is a framed photo of Dr. Gordon on an elephant from a university homecoming in the 90s. This is a photo that Marge had found memories of. It's also celebrate Dr. Gordon's more playful responsibilities as university president. As a token of the university gratitude toward Dr. Gordon, this framed photo will be given to Marge to take home today. Guests may also take a note card of this photo home as well. This ends the formal program. We would like to ask you to please stay to enjoy the refreshments and receptions in the pavilion next door. Thank you very much.